Hey y'all, thanks so much for joining us today at The Heart. My name is Dominic Insenius. I'm the leader of this church community, and I'm so grateful that you have taken some time out of your day in your journey of faith to be a part of what God is doing here in the city of San Marcos. We have a saying around here, you don't have to go to church here to go to church here, and that means you are welcome to enjoy this message from your tablet, phone, or computer, wherever you're watching it on. Big things can happen when we expect God to move. So I pray today that God would speak to you through this message. The message today can encourage you and empower you to move throughout your week and what's next in your life. So enjoy this message.
We are finishing up our series that we've been in for a couple of weeks called Rest. And it's been fun to kind of explore a few of the different angles of that. When we do a message series, we try to pick something that we can really dive into and understand how it interacts with our faith, how it interacts with our life. And so for the last few weeks, as we've been talking about rest, we took some time to define it, right? We said rest is really the same thing as peace, finding peace, and we can find that when we take time to connect with God. And we talked about why it's important to rest, why we want to do that. And then this past week, what was this past week? Does anybody remember? Gratitude. Thank you. A way to peace is to practice gratitude. So today, as we wrap up, as we finish up talking about rest, and we'll never talk about it again, I'm just kidding. As we finish talking about rest, what I want to dig into, what I want to talk about is how rest can be a part of our life. How can we not just maybe hope to find it every now and then, but maybe make a habit of it, make a rhythm of it, and understand what it can be in our life. How it can be there to serve us. As I was growing up, I'm not this way so much anymore, but as I was growing up, I was really, anytime we were going to play a game, some kind of board game or something, I had to know all the rules first. Anybody else like that? Like, before we start the game, we got to read the rules back to front. Even like when, and not even a fun way. You know what I mean? It was so I could weaponize the rules during the game and call you out on them. You know, so I wasn't a fun rule guy. And then when I was in high school, my folks got a pool table. So me and my dad, we played pool a lot, and we had the rule book right next to the pool table. And me and him, some shot that he would take, or where we would do this, like, hold on, let's check the rules. We got to check the rule. I knew so much more about billiards than I ever thought I would during those couple years that we had the pool table there, because I needed to know the rules. And it's one of those things that actually, like I said, it's sometimes it was fun, sometimes it wasn't fun. Sometimes it was good to know the rules, but I would become this, not to be too dramatic, even though that's my nature, is this kind of slave to the rules, right? If we know the rules, then you can't stray from that. Because if you stray from that, then you're missing what the point is, what you're supposed to be doing. And that's what I want to talk about today, because in the Jewish tradition, what you'll find as you read certain parts of the Bible is that the rule is to rest on the seventh day. In fact, we can jump into the verse pretty quick today. We're going to look at a couple different verses today. The first one I want to look at is Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Now, this is after the creation story, okay, where God said, let there be waters, and separate day and night, and let there be light. Remember that one? You know where that one's from? God said, let there all be these things, let there be, human beings. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And after he made the animals and the water and the light and humans, then On the seventh day, does anybody know what he did on the seventh day? Take a wild guess. He rested on the seventh day. So let's read that. Genesis, I forgot my Bible today. Don't tell anybody. Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 says, "So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy because it was the day when he rested from all his work of creation." Now, whether you believe that God created the heavens and the earth and everything in it in 6 days is not the point of this. Whether he did or he didn't. What we're looking at here is this idea of after the work is done, rest is key. After the work is done, rest is essential. And so what the Jewish tradition did is they really took that to heart. And they took it to heart and then passed that and they put it into law. And if you didn't follow the law, if you didn't rest on the seventh day, you were in trouble. Punishable. You're supposed to rest, not do a thing. You don't cook, you don't clean, you don't do anything. Now, on one hand, that's a little Dom-esque with the rules, right? You can't do that. You moved a chair, you can't move furniture on the day of rest. Everybody knows that. It's a little how I was with the rules. Like, nope, I know the rules and you're breaking the rules. I know the rules and you're breaking the rules. And so rest, it seemed to become this thing that was your obligation, right? You were supposed to. You had to rest. It was mandated that you rest. And if I'm being honest, with the way that I have kind of, knowing myself, when I feel things like that or see things like that, I feel like I can understand that. I can understand an obligation. I can understand a rule. Am I supposed to do this or am I supposed to do that? Are we allowed to play this? Are we allowed to play that? I need to know the rules. There's this game that we play with, or we play it all the time. I don't know if I can say it. It's called, it's not called this, but it's called, like, Shenanigans, where you play, like, you say you have 2 2s and then 3 3s, and, okay, don't say what it is. But Shenanigans. And so we played with my nephew one time, and he was so cute because, would say, okay, I have 2 2s, 3 3s, whatever, 2 4s, and then when it got to him, he would say this line. He'd say, "Can we play kings and stuff?" So that was like 5 years ago, and even now when we're playing that game, we're playing cards, I'll say, "Can we play kings and stuff?" You wanted to know the rules, right? You want to know the rules. You want to know the rules so you can win, or you want to know the rules so you can be a part of the thing. Well, in the Jewish tradition, when it came to rest, it was a rule, it was a law. You were supposed to, you had to, you were obligated, you were mandated. And so what maybe seemed to happen is that, yes, you were resting, but you almost missed the heart behind resting. Kind of the juice behind resting. And even to this day, we when we think of rest or think of relaxing, we think of stopping everything, right? Unplugging. Not going to do a thing because I'm going to rest. So I'm not going to pick up the phone. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to scroll Instagram. Nothing. I'm going to rest. And I wonder if we miss the power of rest by thinking of it so one-dimensionally. I wrote something down for us. It's that rest isn't a chore. It's not an obligation, right? It's not a chore. It's a choice. You get to be a part of what rest can do for you. When we look at it as an obligation, anything that we look at as an obligation will lose its power. It will lose its meaning. It will lose its purpose. It's a matter of when. Because no one likes to feel obligated to anything. Now, I'm not saying there's not things that we commit ourselves to, right? But an obligation is the quickest way for something to lose its purpose, its meaning in our life. Second thing I wrote down is this: don't force rest to obey God. Embrace rest to experience more of God. That's what I want us to do as we walk away from this series, okay? As we walk away from today, I want us to embrace rest, not force it. I think that's what happened in the Jewish tradition. And the second verse I want to look at together kind of points to that. In fact, let's go to that. This is going to be in the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verses 9 through 12. Now, in this part of the story, in this part of the book of Matthew, Jesus goes to one of the gathering places, the synagogue, where they would go to gather and talk about spiritual things, religious type things. And so we'll pick up in verse 9. Then Jesus went over to their synagogue, where he noticed a man with a deformed hand. And the Pharisees asked Jesus, does the law permit the law? Remember I told you rest was in the law. It was a law that you rested. Can you imagine? People here are like, please, where's that legislation? Does the law permit a person to work by healing on the Sabbath? Tricky, tricky. They were hoping he would say yes so they could bring charges against him. Right? They were always trying to catch Jesus and trying to trap him. Think of the question. Does the law permit healing on the Sabbath, on the day of rest, when you're not supposed to do anything? No work, nothing that requires effort, because we're trying to rest here, right? We work for 6 days, and then we rest. Why would you not want to rest? So they were hoping he'd say yes, so they would bring charges against him. And he answered, if you had a sheep that fell into a well on the Sabbath, wouldn't you work to pull it out? Of course you would. And how much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Yes, the law permits a person to do good on the Sabbath. See, this is something that Jesus would regularly do. He would take something that was the law, the Jewish law, and challenge it. Challenge not the law, but the heart behind the law. You see that? Not is this the right law or not, but are we looking at this with the right perspective? He would do this all the time, with all kinds of different subjects. And so he says, are we looking at rest the right way? Because you can follow the law but miss the point. Are you within the law? Are you obeying God? Are you doing the things you're supposed to do? Yeah, maybe, technically on paper, but you're missing what that law was even put there for. So maybe it was the best of intentions to make rest a law, because you said, okay, well, we want to rest, and we want to make sure that people understand how important rest is. What's one of the best ways that we can make sure people know how important rest is? I know. Put it in the books. Now it's a law. Now you have to rest. Now, everyone will know how important rest is to our faith, to our tradition, to our people. But if you get a few people like Dominic used to be, now rest isn't any fun anymore, because it's about making sure people are resting the right way. It's about making sure people are resting the way they're supposed to the letter of the law. Does anyone care about the rules anymore? But Jesus says, well, I think we might be looking at rest wrong. I think we might be missing the point of rest. I'm on this app called Instagram. I don't know if y'all have heard of it before. And I follow this guy named Adam Grant, and he reposted something from another account called Research Doodles. And this was a couple weeks ago, but it's right in line with rest. So I want to show it to you. Research Doodles is the account. And so when it comes to resting, I thought this was really a perfect depiction of kind of what we've been talking about, and what I wanted to really nail down today is we think resting is just stopping, right? The Jewish law, resting, in the Jewish law, it was you do nothing. You unplug. You cannot do a thing. But Jesus kind of introduces a different perspective. He doesn't say you shouldn't not do anything. He doesn't say that doing nothing is bad. It's just that also doing good is okay. And so if you can see there, you have these things like family, friends, hobbies, things that bring you meaning, things that bring you purpose. And I know you've experienced this in your life, where you're doing something, but it's fueling you, right? It's recharging you. And you get lost in time. You don't know how much time you spent because it doesn't matter because you're enjoying it so much. And you walk away from that with more energy than if you had just laid on the couch. That's what real rest can do. If we just focus on resting as in stopping, if we just focus on resting as in not doing anything, then we miss out on the peace that can come with rest if we are finding things with meaning. If we're finding things with meaning and purpose in our life. Next thing I wrote down for you is this. Rest can come by doing tasks that are fulfilling, not just unplugging from life. That's what we just looked at. Doing tasks that are fulfilling. Because one of the things I've been, in this rest series, and a lot of times the series that we talk through, the kind of topics that I want to hit, there are things that I'm dealing with as well, right? I'm not sitting up in my throne and saying, what are the people dealing with? You know what I mean? Since I'm doing so well, no, these are things I'm struggling with too. I'm not good at rest. So I want to dig into it with you. And so one of the things I kind of been asking myself during this series, especially these last couple of weeks, is how, not just how do I rest, right? Not how can I find rest, how can I find peace? But what are the things that give me purpose? What are the things that give me meaning? Not just when do I have time to stop. That's the other thing too, is like, I've been asking myself honestly, is how can I fit in rest if I'm so busy? How are you supposed to fit in rest if you're so busy? I think that's a valid question, and it's a challenging question, and it's one that I would encourage you to ask yourself. How can I fit in rest if I'm so busy? And I think we look at what Jesus is saying here about the sheep, about people. He's saying, yeah, I know the law. And I know the law says what it says, but I'm saying, right? Jesus is saying, I'm saying the heart behind the law permits this. He's not saying avoid the law, right? He's not saying throw the law out, do whatever you want. He's saying the law, the real law, what God did way back then in the story of creation. That's what he meant. Is what I hear Jesus saying there. Okay, I think I have one more thing. The last thing I wrote down is this. Rest doesn't mean avoiding exhaustion. It includes finding meaning and purpose. Avoiding exhaustion is a good thing. I think we said this, or I think I said this a couple weeks ago. Sometimes we go on vacation, we take a week off, and we get back, and we are more exhausted when we go back to work that Monday than we were before we went on vacation. And you need a vacation from your vacation. Why is that? Because it's not just about avoiding work. It's not just about avoiding what you're supposed to do. Rest includes finding meaning and purpose. And I think that's what Jesus is saying is, yeah, you can rest by stopping. Yes, you can rest by not doing work. Yes, you can rest by doing those things, but that's not only what rest is. Rest also includes doing good. Doing good for people around us. And maybe you don't have sheep, Or you don't have the power to heal people around you when you touch them, like Jesus does. But there's sometimes on a Sunday evening when I'm supposed to be resting, I get out my computer and I do a little bit of work getting ready for the next week. And I can make an easy case to say, that's not resting. You should be relaxing on your Sunday evenings. If you can't relax on your Sunday evenings, when can you relax? Am I right or am I right? I'm right. But what I have found is maybe get my computer out and do maybe an hour of work, a couple, 2, 3 things here and there. You know what it does? It sets up future Dominic to have a less stressful week. You see what I'm saying? So am I resting in the sense that the Jewish law says? No, not at all. Opposite. But am I setting myself up to have peace for the week? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that peace will extend throughout that whole week because I did a little bit of good for me. I did a little bit of good for Dominic in that time. And that opens me up to have a peaceful week. And why have a peaceful week? When there is peace in my life during the week, I'm more open to connection. I'm texting people. I'm calling people. I'm smiling. I'm laughing because I have peace. And all it cost me was a little bit of work on a Sunday while I'm watching the game, or I got a TV show on, or I got a movie on, or even some of my friends I have will get together. We'll get all our computers, and we all get work done and still enjoy hanging out together. We go away from working because we were able to do it together, being recharged and refueled during that time. And I love this story today, the story of what Jesus was trying to do, trying to help the people he was talking to understand. And by, through the Bible, now us, we can kind of understand. I like this story because when I first came to Christianity, because I grew up Catholic, and we didn't always go to church. We went to church a lot of the time. The noon, we weren't those weirdos getting there at 6 a.m., I was like, take it easy, everybody. We'll get there by noon. And I did, the catechism, I think is what it's called, and I did the First Communion and the whole business, the whole shenanigans. And I don't know why I didn't consider that Christianity. I guess, like, kind of looking back, like, yes, of course it was. We talked about Jesus, and the priest would, read from the Bible, or parts of the Bible. And then I went to this church that it was my first experience, like kind of a non-denominational Christian church where, live band, and some guy was up there doing his thing. And so this was kind of like my first, like Catholicism, I felt was, it felt stale to me, at least the church I was going to. But then I really jumped on this non-denominational Christian thing because there was a lot of rules to follow. And I was like, oh, I get rules. I get rules. And you want to be a good Christian? Here's the rules. You don't cuss. You don't drink. You don't smoke. You don't watch rated R movies. You're not mean to people unless they're not Christian. I'm like, okay, rules. I'm here for it. And so I would follow the rules and then point people out who weren't following the rules. And I'm a very judgmental person, if you don't know this about me. Very forgiving, but very judgmental. I will judge you all day and then give you all the grace in the world. That's true. So Christianity was a pretty good fit for me, at least that type of Christianity, right? I was all judged. Not following the rules. But if I wasn't following the rules, God would give me grace. That's the kind of Christian I was. Can you imagine? I'm sure you can. I'm sure you've met people like that. I'm sure you know people like that. And what's so interesting to me is my journey of Christianity, my journey of faith, my journey throughout this thing is I started with this idea, this mindset that the Jewish tradition had. Give me the rules. What can I say? What can I not say? What can I do? What can I not do? We play Kings and stuff. And the more I have been in it, the more I have realized what Jesus has been trying to say for thousands of years is if you're following the rules, you're missing the point. If you're just making sure that you're within the letter of the law, you're missing the whole point. The law was put there in the first place. We have an opportunity to step into rest, not an obligation to be locked in there. It's an invitation to be a part of the peace that God has created for us to enjoy, to refuel us, to give us the rest that our soul needs, to give us the rest that our heart needs, to give us the rest that our mind needs. Because when we're rested, we have peace, and when we have peace, that just infects the people around us. The same way we infect people with our bad mood, with our negative attitude, with a bad day we had, the same power that does that, it's the same thing that infects the people around us with peace, with hope. That is why I want you to rest. That is why I want to rest. That's why I want to learn how to rest. So it's up to you. You need to figure out what brings meaning into your life. Maybe you'll have weeks where you can take half a day off and truly rest, as in relax. But for many of us, we don't have that kind of time off of work and raising kids and doing things at the house and finding our sheep. So we can find things that bring us meaning and embrace the rest, the peace that comes from that. That's what I want you to find. And when you find it, make it a rhythm, make it a pattern, make it a rule, make it a law. Whoops. I think you'll find freedom in that. That's what I want. I want to do that so I can find freedom. I want to experience peace. I want to be a part of the peace that God has created for me. And so if that means that I'm intentional about the things that I do, intentional about the things that I put myself around, then I'm going to do that. I'm going to find where I experience meaning, where I experience purpose. If you could close your eyes real quick and bow your head, I want to pray for you today. God, we're so grateful for the peace that you have created, that you freely offer. We don't need to wait for it. We don't need to beg for it. We don't need to hope for it. All we need to do is embrace it. God, I thank you for the invitation you have given us to find rest in you, the invitation you have given us to find peace in you. I pray that we would take that invitation, that we would embrace it. There wouldn't be an obligation, there wouldn't be a supposed to, there wouldn't be a have to. That there would be an embracing of rest, an embracing of peace. So we love you. We thank you for that today. And in your name I pray, amen.
Y'all, thanks so much for joining us today at The Heart. To find out what is next for you in your journey of faith, I want to invite you to go to theheart.church/next, see what's in store for you, get in touch with us. We would love to be able to connect with you and see how we can partner with you in your journey. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.